Hello, boys and girls. Stones Malone here, once again on behalf of themoviesleuth.com to talk to you for just a few minutes today about Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 4, titled The Last of the Starks. And in this video, I'm just going to cut the shit. I'm not going to fucking beat around the bush. This is going to be a rant, okay, more than it is a review. I'm just going to touch on some of the highlights, the lowlights, the overarching theme of the episode. And you know, I'm not gonna catch everything that happened. Okay. I'm feeling lazy. My brother-in-law just lent me a copy of God of War. I'm anxious to get into that. And to be honest, this episode, it wasn't shit. I did not like it, but it didn't blow me the fuck away either. Okay. This is very reminiscent of, episode 2, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, and that it had a lot of big character moments. For the most part, it's a setup episode, right? I mean, granted, you know, we had the death of Rhaegal. There were some tense moments. And, you know, I guess you could say we got some payoffs, right? We had Brienne and Jaime finally hooking up. Something that's been teased over the course of seasons. I'll be honest, I never really expected them to go all the way. And I don't know how I'm still, after I am, as of the moment of this recording, this is Tuesday night, right? So we're a couple days removed from the episode, and I'm still not sure how I feel about it. You know, these two, it's been clear for a while that they love each other, right? But I always read it as maybe it's a one-way street, right? Brienne has that romantic love for Jaime, but I never imagined that it would be reciprocated in quite that way. Or maybe it was, but it was kept in check. I just never expected them to actually jump into the sack together, but here we have it. They fucking did the deed, and now it's all the more painful when Jaime rides back south to go meet back up with Cersei. And of course, I guess we'll just stick with that. I haven't really talked to a lot of people and asked how they read that moment. But it seems pretty obvious to me that he's not going back to Cersei to shack back up with her. Like, you know what? You know, we just fucked. It was pretty terrible. You're not at all what I'm into, and I'm just going to ride back south to fucking bone my sister again. I don't think that's it. He's going to go kill her, right? That's what he said, because the decision was made once he heard the fucking news that Rhaegal was taken out of the sky. Cersei's, you know, the wheels are in motion. It all hit him like a fucking freight train, and he has to go deal with it, okay? And so, of course, I don't expect that he'll ever return to Winterfell, to Brienne. I think he will die in King's Landing, but that's for another discussion. So there was a lot of romance in this episode, though, okay? So we had the Gendry Arya moment when he, you know, basically proposes to her, gets down on one knee, asks her to be the Lady of Storm's End. She, of course, refuses. We all know that's not Arya. She says as much. Goes about as we would expect it to, okay? And my only question now is, will we ever see Gendry again? There were some farewell moments. We had you know, to me, that was Gendry's farewell moment. We had a couple with Jon, you know, his moment with Sam, his moment with Tormund, obviously Ghost. So let me just, I know I'm all over the place, guys, by the way. Believe me, I was initially touching on the romance, and we did have a little bit between Jon and Dany, which we'll get to later. You know, then of course I'm jumping around all over the fucking place, like I said. But let me just shit on Jon for a second, okay? The farewell with Sam and Gilly and Tormund, that's all well and good, but you can't even give the dog anything but 1,000-yard stare. Okay, we see this fucking poor fucking creature, Ghost, who we've been pining for. You know, we've been pining to see more of Ghost, more of the direwolves over the past couple years, and we finally get a little bit. And you know, he goes right alongside the Dothraki, runs straight into battle against the army of the dead, gets his ass kicked, comes out the other side alive, but you know, certainly worse for wear, missing a chunk of his ear, bloodied and beaten. And you don't even, you know, get down and pat him on the fucking head. You know, and Jon Snow is a character he's the most moral character on the show. He is a much better man than I am, but I would never fucking do that. And on top of it, it's not just like his faithful dog, right? It's not just like his best bud. This is, the direwolves and the Starks, they're linked by like a psychic connection to a degree, at least, right? There's like a spiritual bond, and you can't give him more than, hey, Tormund, you mind taking him with you? It's mighty inconvenient for me to take him down south. I don't think he'd be happy there. Why don't you fucking take him with you up, north of the wall? So that was a bum out. It was one of a few nitpicks that I had. And you know what? Fuck it. I'll just head straight into the nitpicks. Let's get those out of the way. So there's number one. Number two, Rhaegal. I don't mind that they killed him. I was sad for sure, but it's the way in which it was done. I mean, I can suspend my disbelief to a degree. I'm not one to get into like nitpicking too much, but it's like you have an aerial view. You're in the sky on the back of a dragon. Dany, I'm speaking of course. And the Iron Fleet sneaks up on you. You don't see it coming, and then on top of that, the Euron and his men are able to just one shot after the other, never fucking missing, just direct hits like 3 times in a row on Rhaegal, taking him out of the sky, plunging him into the sea. And then when it comes to fucking Drogon's evidently like, he's Rambo, and Euron and his men become the stormtroopers. They can't fucking hit him to save their fucking life. So that was kind of some bullshit there, and you know what? Let's keep the bullshit train going. The parley between Dany and Cersei, and again, I apologize. I know I am all over the place, but you know what? This is how I feel like doing it. So fuck you. It's what's coming to mind at the moment, and this is what's coming to mind. The parley between Dany and Cersei. Cersei has the battlements lined with Lannister soldiers, lined with, the scorpion fucking ballistas or crossbows or whatever the fuck you want to call them. And you have a handful of unsullied Drogon skulking around in the background. She had every opportunity to, if not end the war before it starts, at least level the playing field, and she didn't do it. And this is not in character for Cersei, right? She's not someone who gives a shit about rules of engagement or any of that stuff. So that was kind of, and it just felt weird, and I couldn't help but notice it. Another thing, I'm trying to think. It was just on the tip of my tongue, and now I have to fight to fish it back out of the depths of my mind. Oh, right. The fact that, I just mentioned she had a handful of unsullied, Dany, at the parley. And the episode really did nothing to establish the state of Dany's army, okay? We saw the Dothraki get all but wiped out last week. We saw the unsullied get all but wiped out last week. How many of these motherfuckers does she have left, okay? And Rhaegal just got taken out of the sky. The wildlings packed up and fucked off back up north of the wall. What kind of army is Dany really bringing to this fight? We hear Bronn at some point in the episode where he talks about if he's a betting man, whether even though Jon and Dany's army has been exhausted, so to speak, they still have the edge. But the show did nothing to show me that that's the case. When we look at like I said, it's like what, fucking 50 unsullied armies standing behind Dany? Is that it? That's the entirety of her force? And I'm sure that's not the case, but I mean, the show just really didn't do a whole lot to establish Dany's supposed advantage. I just don't see it. I see this, and on top of that, if it's going to be a siege, you're always at the disadvantage. So you've got one dragon up against, like, God knows how many of these fucking scorpions Qyburn's fucking come up with. So I just don't see the fucking clear edge that Dany is supposed to have, and I don't even see it as being a level playing field at this point. To me, logically, it looks like Cersei certainly has the advantage. So those are my fucking gripes with the episode, and that's pretty much the long and short of it. Again, I didn't hate the episode. I thought it was a good episode, especially the feast scene, the celebration dinner. A lot of we had Tormund back in full effect, being the comedic relief of the fucking episode. And it felt organic. It felt like it should, a bunch of people drinking, celebrating, and Tormund's at the fucking front of it, raising a glass or a horn to Jon and calling him a mad fucker, and trying to chase Brienne down, then crying about it to Clegane, and it all just fucking jived, and it all worked. I really enjoyed that celebration scene. And I do have to say, before I get into, I just mentioned Tormund, praising Jon, and we can see Dany starting to fucking lose her shit. Before I get into that, let me just briefly touch on Tyrion and Davos and their conversation, because I feel that was like a very meta little conversation that they had. The Lord of Light, what the fuck does he want? He shows up, we do his bidding, and then he just fucks right off. And we don't even know anything about him. We no signs, no nothing, no praises. And then, of course, Tyrion telling him, you probably shouldn't think about that too long. It's not going to make you any happier. I feel like that's kind of a message to the fans, right? The message to the people like us who are wondering, well, just what the fuck was up with the White Walkers? What the fuck was up with R'hllor, the Lord of Light? What's the backstory? And we can't think about it too much, right? I guess that's the show telling us, fuck you, okay? So I guess you can count that as another gripe when it comes down to it. But anyway, I mentioned just a moment ago, Dany starting to fucking lose her shit. She feels very isolated. She is in the North now. These are not her people. It's not Essos, okay? They're not celebrating her so much as they're celebrating Jon and Arya and all the Starks. And this is something that's not lost on Varys, or Sansa for that matter. But speaking of Varys, we had a couple scenes with him where it's, the gears are turning. Obviously, he's about done with Dany. He can see the writing on the wall. She's gonna fucking lose it. She's gonna become a tyrant. He knows it. And let me backpedal once again. That's another thing that I feel like the episode or the series has not done enough of. We've seen Dany make questionable decisions. Okay, burning the Tarleys was one. Crucifying the Masters could arguably be another. But has she really ever fucking been so terrible? I don't know. I mean, I know Varys, he has his little birds. And if any of his little birds were in the room with Jon and Dany when they were kind of having their little moment of, romance turned sour, when she starts begging him not to reveal the truth. And, of course, the thing with Dany is, in this episode, I went from feeling bad to her for feeling so isolated to contempt for her asking something of Jon that it's just not realistic and not really morally right. I'm all over the place with Dany in this episode, and I think that was intentional, and I think they did that well. The showrunners, the directors, they did that well. But what they didn't do well was really establish a real solid basis for Varys to be so fearful as he is of Dany. And Tyrion kind of calls him out on it. It's like at a certain point, you think you would just fucking come up with somebody that you can back and stick with that person. And Varys has certainly been somebody who has never fucking done that. Now, to his defense, he's always served tyrants, as he mentions at the outset of this scene with Tyrion. But at the same time, it's like, fuck, man, maybe not. Maybe you don't fucking go the treasonous route just yet. Maybe you give her a fucking chance to. And look, there are always casualties of war. We don't want to see innocents suffer, okay? Tyrion, in his conversation with Qyburn, they say as much. I don't want to hear the screams of 1,000 dying children within the fucking city walls. No one does. But sometimes there's no fucking way around that. And to Dany's defense, diplomacy is not going to fucking work with Cersei, okay? A conversation isn't going to get the job done. And if you want to eliminate Cersei, if you want to get her off that Iron Throne, I just don't see another way, okay? So in that regard, I got Dany's back. Where I don't have her back is when we have that war council scene between Dany, Jon, Sansa, Arya, everybody, right? And they're making their plans, and Sansa brings up the fact that, hey, you know what? Maybe we should wait a little bit, okay? I need to talk to the officers. They're extremely exhausted. We just went through the biggest battle on Earth. Maybe we wait a little bit until our armies are fully ready and equipped to fucking deal with Cersei. I definitely have Sansa's back in this case, okay? It just seems hasty, okay? And I don't get. So Dany says that, okay, yeah, I the longer I let my enemies alone, the stronger they become. Well, what has the show or the story, what have they done to establish that? So Cersei has hired the Golden Company. She has them now, okay? They have not gone through a large battle recently. The Lannister forces are what they are. They have the Golden Company. I don't see how it benefits Dany or Jon or any of them to rush into another huge fucking fight. Sansa is definitely right here, and Jon clearly, in a moment to appeal to Dany, has her back, right? I don't know. Like I said, I'm all over the place with Dany. I feel for her, and I don't, and I still have. I guess we gotta wait. We gotta wait and see how things pan out. But from the looks of it, from the last shot that we see of Dany looking so fire and blood as she walks past the camera's view, I think we all know what she's about to do. And so the interesting thing is, what's going to happen now between Varys, Tyrion, and Dany? What moves might Varys want to make in an effort to stop this, in an effort to replace her with Jon? And how's Jon going to react? So, there's a lot of foreshadowing that can be done. And there's a lot to look forward to. I'm not going to get into a shitload of predictions. Although, speaking of foreshadowing, jumping back to the scene that Jon had with Tormund, of course, Tormund laid it on pretty thick when Jon said, I guess this is farewell. And, well, you never know, right? You never know. You have the true North in you. You belong with us. I don't think Jon's permanent residence is going to be in King's Landing, okay? And Varys can talk as much shit as he wants about how much better a ruler Jon would be. Yes, Jon is a better person than Dany. Jon inspires more faith, and he inspires the people more than Dany. He's a better person. However, that doesn't mean he's a better leader. Would he necessarily be a good king? I just don't see Jon being a politician. Not only does he not want it, I just don't know that he would be very good at it. And so my prediction is, if I'm going to throw one out there, is that after next week, there will be no Iron Throne. We've been saying that for a while, and I think a lot of us in the back of our minds always thought that it was going to be the Army of the Dead, the White Walkers, the Night King that made it so that there would be no Iron Throne. Well, in this case, I think you're going to have the duel between two Mad Queens. We've got Dany, the Mad Queen, with her fucking dragon, and we've got Cersei, the Mad Queen, with her wildfire. This is not going to end well for King's Landing. I don't know how much of it's going to be left by the end, okay? And at some point, I think Jon has to go back north. Now, I'm sure that many of us, I know I've heard people expressing their wishful thinking, I guess, that the Night King isn't dead. There's something, he'll come back. Somehow the White Walker storyline isn't completely over. And you know what? There may be a little room for that. I don't know. We'll see. I'm not gonna speculate on that too much, but I will say that I do feel like Jon is going to return north, or something is going to happen north, significant yet. Because I think after next week, of course, we only have one episode to follow after that, King's Landing is going to be laid to ruin, okay? And where all the pieces fall after that, who knows? But that being said, I have one more thing to shit on that just came to mind. When Jon dropped the truth bomb to Arya and Sansa, we didn't get their reaction. That was a poor fucking directional choice, okay? I wanted to see, you know what? Fuck, man, this is something they've been fucking... This information is huge, and it's been kept from so many fucking people, and we didn't get to see Sansa and Arya's reaction to that, and I don't like that. It made me fucking irritated, okay? So anyway, there's that. I just had to throw that out there. We talk about the title of the episode, The Last of the Starks. Well, we're certainly not talking about Jon. Jon's a Targaryen, and even before he knew he was a Targaryen, how many times has he said, I'm not a Stark? Right? So it's not Jon. It's not Arya. She's probably not going to make it out of next week. We could logically say Bran. He's the youngest. But he's the three-eyed raven now, as he's made no secret. And he wants nothing. So the last of the Starks is fucking Sansa. And I think that Sansa is one of the key characters in this episode, of course. Along with Varys, she is noticing a lot about Dany and her temperament, and she's actively kind of working against her. And Sansa is a very different character than she was way back in season 1, 2, 3, right? She has learned a lot from Littlefinger. She knows how to play the game. And if there's anybody that knows how to play the game on the level that Cersei does, it's Sansa. Now, I don't know how, what I really don't know how next week's going to shake down, but it would be a cool thing to see, like a battle of we talk about the battle of the Mad Queens. It would be nice to see Sansa have something to do, play some role in the downfall of Cersei. But we'll see. I imagine that when all is said and done, Sansa will be really the last person around to rule. I don't see Dany sitting on that throne. Cersei certainly isn't going to be sitting on that throne. Jon doesn't want the throne. He'll probably make his way back north. Like I said, it's more of a gut feeling than anything, but that's what I feel. And I think the realm will be left to Sansa. Perhaps Sansa and Tyrion. Who knows? Like I said, maybe, well, we've only got, next week is our penultimate episode, so we don't have a whole lot of time left for predictions, but, yeah, and I've never been one to make big predictions, so. But anyway, those are my, I want to say initial thoughts, but this is it. This is the video that you're getting from me this week. I thought it was a fine episode. Nothing that blew my mind. Nothing that shit the bed. I'm definitely looking forward to next week. We'll see what happens. Well, I guess, you know what? Look, and again, once again, for the 18th fucking time, I apologize for how all over the fucking place I am, but I guess I have to talk about Missandei just for a second. She did die, after all. She's a character that's been around a while. She was Dany's fucking chum. I hated that actress. I think she was a miserable fucking, she just fucking sucked. And so I wasn't too busted up about the fact that Missandei died, but I do have to say that I thought it was kind of funny because at the end, when Cersei gives her opportunity to say her last words, all that comes out is Dracarys. And I mean, of course, that's meant to be interpreted as light them the fuck up, right? But for fucking just a brief second, I was kind of drunk and stupid and thought like, oh, dude, that's like the most desperate Hail Mary thing I've ever seen. She's trying to get Drogon to fucking breathe some flames or something. And like this like pathetic attempt getting herself out of it. But of course, that wasn't the case, and that's a dumb thought. But anyway, looking forward to next week. Looking forward to the Arya and Hound Roadshow to continue for at least another few minutes. Give us that back, right? And before all hell breaks loose. And until then, I will see you then. Until then, I will see you then. That makes no sense. How about this? Bye.